Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio, it's the Adams family. Good morning. Thanks so much for being on the program. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've got a lot to cover. A little bit later on, we're going to hear from Elmira Express Jr. They're going to tell us all about their upcoming performance of the Adams Family musical. So that will be in the 7 o'clock hour. I did want to remind you that tomorrow on the program, Chemung County Executive Chris Moss will be our guest. So please get your questions in ahead of time. All right, let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. President Trump says the war in Iran is closing down and coming to an end. And he is sending warships to help get oil tankers through the strait they go through, the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, we're going to talk about that in Iran in depth. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Well, good morning, Steve. Here's a better question for those that might be able to step outside their TDS for even a brief moment. How did Trump go from being the most beloved Democrat within the country that actually basically bankrolled Jesse Jackson's run for president? Also still says the same exact things that he has always said on Oprah Winfrey's show, basically word for word. Yet as soon as he basically realized that the Democrat Party had lost their way and ran as a Republican, all of a sudden he became enemy number one and made out to be the most hated person on the face of the earth. I would wait for answers, but I know the people actually have to sit there and wait for the legacy media or Google or Chat GDP or whatever it's called to actually give them an answer. If people can't see it for what it is, you will never be able to understand how the Democrats don't care about anything other than being in power and actually controlling your life. Democrats just give billions of dollars and lie to the end of time. They are serious wimps when it comes to foreign policies. How did all of your Democrat policies get you? Iran has enough to create 11 nuclear bombs, yet you defend dictators. Says all I need to know about you. At least Trump tried your diplomacy. Like a country that has and still wants every non-believer dead. Pathetic. Should we just still cross our fingers and wait for more Americans and Iranian citizens to be murdered? Boom, they are dead. Biden caused every problem we currently have. Not our fault. People have no memory. Cause and effect. If you don't like the effect, don't vote for the cause. Stop voting for the continual cause of all the problems. Why do people have the memory of a gnat? Thank you, Steve. Speaking of Trump derangement syndrome, just quickly, where did I have that? Do I have it handy? Did you see James Carville, the Raging Cajun, going off, not only saying that he has Trump derangement syndrome, that he wants more hatred for the president? I got Trump derangement syndrome, Carville said on his podcast. I hate that blanker. And you know what? I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to get better. I want to get worse. I want to hate him more. This is where it gets weird because he involved prayer. The whole thing was weird. I pray to God in heaven, God, rain the righteous rain of Trump derangement syndrome on me. Pray for me, Lord. I'm your vessel on earth. Pray for the people that listen to this. We want more. We want to hate the blanker so much that we can't see straight. I think you're already there, Mr. Carville. I don't just have it, man. I want it. Meaning Trump derangement syndrome. I don't want to get better. I want to get worse. I want to invoke the name of Providence, the name of the Almighty. He who rules the world, the King of all of us, the King of Kings. I want his blessing. I want to have a vision tonight while I'm sleeping. I want the Lord to appear to me and say, James, you are my humble servant. You are executing thy will on this earth. And I want you to tell all your friends and all the people that listen to your YouTube or whatever we got here. He doesn't even know where his name is or the name of the company he uses. Okay, interesting. So we pray together tonight. We will pray together more. But the one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to blanking back off. Not anytime ever. We are not going to back off. And you fat blank Trump, you understand that. Like Trump's listening to Carville. You understand how many blanking people in this country agree with me and are praying to have the strength to even hate you more than they hate you now? I know you think you can't, but I'm telling you, if you work hard enough at it, you can hate him even more. Wow. I mean, that's, hence the name Trump derangement syndrome. But there is a level of maybe, I don't want to sound cliche, but get some help at this point. Because that is not the ramblings of a normal, level-headed human being. Now, White House spokesman Davis Ingle said James Carville is a stone-cold loser who clearly suffers from a severe and debilitating case of Trump derangement syndrome that has rotted his pea-sized brain. Unbelievable. Listen, we've talked about Trump derangement syndrome a lot. That could be a new level. All right, let's go to some breaking news. Australia did grant asylum to the 5 Iranian women's soccer team players, telling them that they're welcome to stay. Australia's Minister for Home Affairs, Tony Burke, said last night I was able to tell 5 women from the Iranian women's soccer team that they are welcome to stay in Australia to be safe and have a home here. I don't want to begin to imagine how difficult that decision is for each of the individual women, but certainly last night it was joy, it was relief. People were very excited about embarking on a life in Australia. I know people have been watching that case closely. Also, since we're going through some weird things before we talk about some breaking news, Senator Thom Tillis, who's making a name for himself by essentially going against the president on a lot of things. I think it's because he's retiring. He called, or maybe he's got it. I get him mixed up with someone else that's turned on Trump lately. But Senator Thom Tillis called on President Donald Trump to remove longtime advisor Stephen Miller from the administration, describing him as an embarrassment and a big problem for the administration. Tillis, speaking on CNN's State of the Union, suggested that Miller should be the next official to exit the West Wing in his latest shot at the top aide. It gives me pause that you have people like Stephen Miller calling the shots. It was Stephen Miller that was talking about a terrorist brandishing a gun. It was Stephen Miller who said it was the position of the United States that we should go after Greenland. It was Stephen Miller who has been repeatedly responsible for embarrassment for the President of the United States by acting too quickly, speaking first and thinking later. Here it is, yes. Tillis, who was not running for re-election, specifically took aim at Miller's role in orchestrating the administration's crackdown on illegal immigration. All right, anyway. When asked by Tapper if he believes Miller should be fired, Tillis was unequivocal, saying, "Oh, of course I do. He's not worried about substance. He's more worried about form. But I also think that he has an outsized influence over the operation of the cabinet. And I believe we've got qualified cabinet members there that sometimes are doing less than they want to because of his direction and his outsized influence. He's a big problem in this administration. He has been from the beginning." Now, Tillis has been a longtime critic of Miller and Noem and their handling of the deportation efforts. Anyway, why am I mentioning that? Democrat Representative, speaking of Noem, Democrat Representative Jamie Raskin was on MS Now saying, "We have to continue all of the oversight that has begun. And I hope that it can successfully be done under the Republicans. But if not, it will have to take place under the Democrats if and when we win the election in November. So what's at stake? Well, Alex Preddy and Renee Good are not going to be brought back to life, but we can at least have a real criminal investigation into their homicides. There are 3 homicides in Minneapolis so far this year, and 2 of them were committed by ICE, by agents of the federal government. We need a real investigation to see what happened, not another cover-up. We need investigation into the hundreds of millions of dollars that Secretary Noem channeled to various political friends and intimates of hers so that money can be reclaimed for the American people. Hundreds of millions of dollars might be a joke to somebody in the Trump cabinet, but it's not a joke to the American people when they're cutting Medicaid and children's health insurance in order to make it possible for her to run these self-promoting ad campaigns all over the country. We can't just let that go. You know, we need to rectify all of these violations of the rule of law." All right, we went through a lot there. Okay. We have a couple other things before we talk about Iran. We do have some New York State updates across the board, some climate policy updates. We also have, I think, a really interesting piece, essentially calling that judge a clown who decided to redistrict, change that district for Nicole Malliotakis. Of course, the Supreme Court stopped that. But we'll tell you what, it was, of all places, the Daily News had to say. But some people have been talking about Stephen A. Miller, the sports commentator, that he may run for president. It's been a pretty regular conversation, not so much in the political world, but kind of in the, maybe you'd say, pop culture world. Well, he was asked by Sean Hannity, is he going to run? He essentially said no. He said he's not going to give up his money. He'd rather make his money than be president, that kind of thing. He said, if I have to give up my money, it's not happening. So Smith was the first guest on Sean Hannity's new podcast. And they asked him who the 3 figures he would support for the president of the United States, if, since he's not running, the next go-round in 2028. He said, Marco Rubio. Interesting. He's an adult in the room. There's no question his qualifications for the job, meaning for president. He said, revealing that despite being a Democrat, he would choose Rubio over many of the party's prominent figures, including Governor Gavin Newsom and former Vice President Kamala Harris. Smith's other pick for commanders-in-chief are more in keeping with his Democrat Party leanings, however. He said he would willingly cast his ballot for Maryland Governor Wes Moore or Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Interesting. There you go. So Rubio gets the first pick. Now, there's a lot of talk. I don't understand this. Maybe you can help me explain. Or maybe you can explain it to me. Excuse me. The media, who never really wants to see a Republican ever win again, very keen on Marco Rubio. This is not anything about Stephen A. Smith at all. I'm just saying I'm seeing more and more of these pieces that are saying that Rubio's overtaking Vance, especially because of the Iran war in this instance. But we've had other instances where they said that Rubio is clearly becoming the favorite. I like Marco Rubio, just like many of you out there do. I like J.D. Vance. It makes me nervous, and this is no knock whatsoever. You've heard me say this before. No knock whatsoever on Marco Rubio. Just the red flags go up when you see the media promoting him and pushing him. And that's where I don't understand it. That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. Why is the media running such glowing pieces about Marco Rubio? Because remember, the media doesn't want to see another Republican president ever again, let alone after 4 more years here of Trump. So in 2008, well, now 3, but 2008, 2028, Rubio. I have a couple pieces on that we'll get to later on. We've got a lot more to cover. We're just kind of getting warmed up. Start off with some kind of oddball stories, but that's okay. It's what it feels like on this Tuesday. A little bit later on, speaking of oddballs, the Addams Family. Well, the Addams Family, the musical, is coming to, well, it's being performed by the Elmira Express Jr. It is being held at Broadway Academy. We're going to find out all about it in the next hour. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
There, meteorologist Brandon Weathers. It'll be a warm one out there, 71, nearly 30 degrees above average, and we cannot take this spring-like warmth for granted because it's not guaranteed for the rest of the forecast. Tonight, still mild, however, with lows in the 50s instead of the average low 20s. A few showers tonight with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible on Wednesday, a high of 70. But look at this strong cold front so that our
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark writes in, this James Carville seems like a wacko. He needs to be locked up. Thank you, Mark. James Carville, the Raging Cajun. He's always been a little, but that was unsettling when he started to invoke prayer. That was strange. If you're just joining us, James Carville asking the Lord for more hatred of Donald Trump for himself. Not sure that's the kind of prayer you should be making, for more hate, but okay. Tom Thillis is a comment from a different viewer. Tom Thillis is on his way out getting his last parting shots. He always has been a uniparty rhino. Yeah, I know he's getting his last shots. I couldn't remember if he was retiring. I keep getting him mixed up with somebody else, but it makes sense that he's been that outspoken. That's normally what a rhino will do on their way out. And as far as Marco Rubio goes, as long as the media can sit there and create chaos and disdain, they will try to pit opponents against one another in order to muddy the waters. That's a fair point, that maybe it's just almost an example where they can badmouth Vance more. and hopefully in their minds create this kind of tension behind the scenes. That could very well be it. It's just weird that it's always going Rubio's direction to me. But anyway, yesterday, President Trump made his case yet again for passing the Save America Act. He said it will save Republicans in the fall midterm elections, and then slammed our senator, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. What a horrible politician, Trump said of Schumer. He is now a Palestinian. Officially, he is registered as a Palestinian, the president joked at the House Republican retreat in Miami. The Safeguarding American Voting, the Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility America Act, SAVE, cleared the lower chamber last month with every Republican and one Democrat voting in support. Trump praised House Republicans for passing the common sense measure, describing it as the easiest thing we have because of polls showing Americans overwhelmingly support voter ID laws. This is not complicated. Voter identification. However, the Save American Act faces a difficult challenge in the Senate, where it will need 60 votes to pass, and the GOP only controls 53 seats. Trump suggested Democrats like Schumer are against the bill because they won't be able to win elections with voter ID laws in place. They're going to do everything possible because they know if we get this, they probably won't win an election for 50 years, maybe longer. He said Democrats are going to fight like heck, we'll say, opposing it, and noted, but boy, do they get killed. The president said he's been seeing polling showing 86% of Democrats support voter ID laws. Democrats are at 86%, except for the people that run the Democrat Party, because they want to try and win elections illegally. It's the only reason you can vote against voter ID, because you want to cheat. Schumer has referred to the bill as Jim Crow 2.0, arguing that it would disenfranchise tens of millions of people. If Trump is saying he won't sign any bills until the SAVE Act is passed, then so be it. There will be total gridlock in the Senate. Senate Democrats will not help pass the SAVE Act under any circumstances. That was Chuck Schumer's comments. Hey, in case you forgot, there is still a partial government shutdown. It has led to, get this, 3-hour waits or longer as the shutdown sparks chaos in the airports and TSA lines spill into parking lots. Many airports have been grappling with massive security lines as spring break travel kicked off over the weekend amid a Department of Homeland Security funding lapse. Houston Hobby Airport in Houston, Texas, had lines lasting an average of 3.5 hours at one point on Sunday, while Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport in Louisiana told passengers to arrive at least 3 hours before their flights, according to Reuters. Lauren Biz, DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, said in a statement that delays are severe fallout from the Democrats' shutdown. Today, travelers are facing TSA lines of up to nearly 3 hours long at some major airports, causing missed flights and massive delays during peak travel. These political stunts force patriotic TSA officers who protect our skies from serious threats to work without pay. These frontline heroes received only partial paychecks earlier this month and now face their first full missed paycheck, leading to financial hardship, absences, and crippling staffing shortages. As staffing constraints arise, TSA will evaluate on a case-by-case basis and adjust operations accordingly to let the passengers know when to arrive. Airport wait times are expected to increase as the shutdown continues, leaving TSA officers in a troubling spot. A trade association representing major U.S. airlines said flights were delayed and passengers missed flights due to long security lines. Quote, Congress and the administration must act with urgency to reach a deal that reopens DHS and ends this shutdown. America's transportation security workforce is too important to be used as political leverage, said Airlines for America's CEO Chris Sununu. Here's the problem, though. This is one-sided. It's the Democrats fighting an issue on ICE that has nothing to do with TSA, FEMA, all the other agencies that are affected by the shutdown. But this is an interesting point. With the World Cup less than 100 days away, staffing shortages could become a pressure point at airport checkpoints. Training a new TSA officer typically takes about 4 to 6 months. Wow. That was Fox News. I believe this is MSNBC. They said, or MSN, what is that, MS Now? TSA staff shortages lead to hours-long security lines for travelers at some airports. So they are TSA agents not receiving a paycheck. But again, this is why it's not going well for Democrats in this partial shutdown, because there's been very little coverage of this. TSA, basically the only coverage that you will get. You don't hear about FEMA. You don't hear about the other, Coast Guard that are working without pay. So 3.5 hours. Wow. So there we are. When we return, I just want to mention that because I think it's very easy to forget there's that shutdown going on and that the Democrats will not negotiate. Remember, ICE is not affected by this. They received all that funding in the big, beautiful bill, so they're fine. So again, this is a losing battle, in my opinion. That's why the media isn't talking about the hardships. Yes, you got Fox. You might have one other one-off. But as a rule, they're not talking about the hardships that TSA and FEMA and Coast Guard and others are going through. And there's a reason for that. They know this isn't a winning battle that the Democrats have picked, but that is where they are at. All right, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Our residents, this is something they love. They put themselves out there doing the show, walking the runway, walking the risers. Every penny we take in on our tickets, on our raffles, sponsorship tables, all goes to volunteers. We sold out in 2 weeks.
New York State giving nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
They are meteorologist Brandon. And weathers, it'll be a warm one out there, 71, nearly 30 degrees above average, and we cannot take this spring-like warmth for granted because it's not guaranteed for the rest of the forecast. Tonight, still mild, however, with lows in the 50s instead of the average low 20s. A few showers tonight with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible on Wednesday, a high of 70. But look at this strong cold front so that our
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. Well, John Cornyn is out pretty soon, so maybe that's who you were thinking of. He's just not retiring, that's all. He's going to be retired. Yes, thank you for that. I think you might be right. It may have been that I was mixing up Thom Tillis with John Cornyn. I don't think so, but that would be a logical guess. Kind of the rhino wing. So could very well be. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning. Well, hey, good morning. Why did MS whatever, it's MS Now, whatever they're called now, ironically you have it in there, MS Now, right? Isn't that what it is? Are now calling themselves, why was it a change in its name? Was it because of lagging viewers? Probably, but it was something to do with, I guess, NBC dropping that news product, and they had to change their name. We talked about it extensively at the time. It's kind of funny how you just forget because it's not like MSNBC was something I was a big fan of. But yeah, it had something to do with the parent company selling them off to a different company, them and a whole bunch of other assets. So it wasn't. So yes, I'm sure their viewers are about what they always are, the same kind of clapping seals that watch Stephen Colbert every night. I don't think they're breaking any records in their numbers, that's for sure. So yesterday, Vice President J.D. Vance joined the grieving family of a Kentucky man who was the 7th U.S. service member to die in combat during the Iran war, as his remains were brought back to the U.S. Monday evening. The dignified transfer, a solemn event that honors U.S. service members killed in action, took place at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware for Army Sergeant Benjamin N. Pennington, 26, of Glendale, Kentucky. He died Sunday after being wounded during a March 1st attack on the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saluted alongside high-ranking military officials as the transfer case, draped with the American flag, was carried from the military aircraft and onto an awaiting vehicle. Mike Bell, retired pastor of Glendale Christian Church, said he'd known Pennington since he was a toddler and got a call from Pennington's father when the soldier was hurt. Quote, I talked to Tim Saturday morning, and he was doing a little better, and they were talking about maybe moving him to Germany. Tim Pennington called again that evening, Bell said, to ask for prayers as his son's condition was worsening, and then later told him the soldier had succumbed to his injuries. He was just a quiet person. I mean, he never attracted attention because he was just steady, doing what he needed to do. So Vance and Pete Hegseth and other high-ranking officials joined the dignified transfer, the 7th U.S. soldier killed in the Iran war. And as always, our thoughts and prayers go out to the Pennington family and his friends. Yesterday, President Trump warned that death, fire, and fury will rain upon Iran if the regime does anything to obstruct oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, saying on, I believe it was on Truth Social last night, saying if Iran does anything that stops the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz, they'll be hit by the United States of America 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Additionally, we will take out easily destroyable targets that will make it virtually impossible for Iran to ever be built back as a nation. Again, death, fire, and fury will rain upon them. But I hope and pray that it does not happen. The president argued that other nations, including China, should view his Iran threat as a gift, saying this is a gift from the United States of America to China and all of those nations that heavily use the Hormuz Strait. Hopefully it is a gesture that will be greatly appreciated. And of course, you know he means business. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Now, about a fifth of the world's daily petroleum exports transit the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow body of water touching Iran. Now, as Mark had mentioned, yesterday Trump said at that Republican conference that the U.S. is far ahead of schedule in the Iran war and very much complete. Trump hailed Operation Epic Fury as a success, suggesting that his previous prediction of a multi-week war may not be necessary. Did you see the conspiracy theory? I saw it on Drudge Report this morning. They're saying that Trump announced that it was essentially complete, that the war is over. He said it after a secretive phone call with Vladimir Putin. Yes, still sticking with that chestnut, that it's always some type of Russian influence. But I'll continue. The president told CBS News, I think the war is very complete, pretty much. Iran has no navy, no communications. They've got no air force. Their missiles are down to a scatter. If you look, they have nothing left. There's nothing left in a military sense. We're very far ahead of schedule. Now, keep in mind, this is just this is the second week. Trump had previously said it could be 4 weeks or 5. Trump was interviewed by CBS hours before he told Republican lawmakers that the war against Iran will be a short-term excursion, saying we took a little excursion because we felt that we needed to do that to get rid of some evil. And I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion. Now, they're also saying it's a mixed message because Pete Hegseth, that they're in it for the long term. But I think the phrase in it for the long term just means in it to win it, right? It's not saying that it's going to be an extended war. The president added, Iran was supposed to be this big, powerful country. We wrapped the heck out of them. I don't know when they cry uncle, but they should have cried it 2 days ago. But they don't have anything left. We've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. Along with praising the more than 3,000 targeted strikes against Iran's regime so far, the president floated the idea of having the U.S. take over the Strait of Hormuz. Passage through the strait has been effectively halted since the war began. Trump said the U.S. could do a lot with the strait under American control, warning Iran to keep the passage clear. They've shot everything that they have to shoot, and they better not try anything cute or it's going to be the end of that country. If they do anything bad, that would be the end of Iran, and you never hear the name again. Much similar. That was before his Truth Social post yesterday. Now, stocks did rally, and the oil prices sank after Trump's remarks reinsured investors. Brent crude, the global oil benchmark, had climbed above $110 in international markets on Monday, and stock futures indicated U.S. indexes would decline as much as 2%. By the close of trading yesterday, the major U.S. indexes were up for the day, and oil had plunged to below $90 a barrel. Within hours of the opening of cash markets for stocks in New York, stocks were paring back their losses, and oil had sunk to around $102 a barrel. So there we go. That's from that speech. We've got quite a few other things to mention about this, just some kind of negative attitudes from the media. We'll talk about that. We also have a lot of New York State updates. Don't forget, coming up in the next hour, Elmira Express Jr. will be joining us to tell us about the Addams Family musical that they'll be performing. And tomorrow's program, get your questions in ahead of time. Chemung County Executive Chris Moss will be joining us tomorrow's broadcast. We have some other guests that when I get my calendar, I'll promote, but we have a busy week. And did you know, this is going to be hard to believe for many of you. I know it's hard to believe for me. Friday will be our 3rd year on the air here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. Yes, Friday will be the 3-year anniversary of the first time we took to the airwaves with the TV version of Frankly Speaking. It's hard to believe. Yep. I was looking at my calendar and I said, wow, time flies. We've covered a lot, made a lot of good friendships through that time, had a lot of great conversations. If you are, for some reason, new to the program, we welcome you, but that's what that number on the bottom of the screen is for. You can send in your waves. That's just kind of a fun count that we do every morning, or you can send in your comments. If you're not a texter, please leave a voicemail. Just because of the nature of the show, I can't take live calls, but I would love to hear your comments through voicemail. So there you go. There's a little bit of I would say a lot of housekeeping. But yes, 3 years on the air on Friday. Hard to believe. Stay with us. We got to take a short break. We'll talk more about Iran when we return. A lot of New York State updates. Mamdani in the attack on Gracie Mansion. We can talk about that as well. And then I have a couple of just Republican Democrat things if we get the opportunity. We may not, though. So stay with us. We're just getting warmed up. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Ferrari Auto Team!
The best hot cocoa?
Ask Google. The best ski resort? Ask Google.
The best Jeep dealer?
Ask Google. We did. Google reviews from customers rank Ferrario Jeep in Elmira the highest Jeep dealer in our area.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Check out the new Jeeps during our President's Day sales event.
Visit Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.com.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
There, meteorologist Brandon. And weathers, it'll be a warm one out there, 71, nearly 30 degrees above average, and we cannot take this spring-like warmth for granted because it's not guaranteed for the rest of the forecast. Tonight, still mild, however, with lows in the 50s instead of the average low 20s. A few showers tonight with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible on Wednesday, a high of 70. But look at this strong cold front so that our high
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some of you are comments. Carville is the poster boy for just saying no to drugs. That's in reference to James Carville, that quote we brought up earlier about him wanting, not only does he have Trump derangement syndrome, he wants more of it. More hatred for Trump was his term. Mark writes in President Trump's speech yesterday, he was asked by a reporter about terrorist cells in this country lashing out. His answer to that was that the DHS is not funded right now, and it would be harder to rectify them, so blame the Democrats if there is uprisings. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Thank you, Mark. We have a little bit about that a little bit later on. Comment from a different viewer. The Strait is open. A Greek tanker went through yesterday. I did not see that. I did not see that news, but I know... either way, it had slowed down significantly. Okay, comment from a different viewer. A little off topic, but what is the status of Democrats suing for the return of tariff money? And how is it that they think the money belongs to them when it came from foreign imports? That's a great point. I think it's just a way to get attention, because I know Governor Hochul did it too. It's kind of, how do I want to word it? She can say that she cares about you and your affordability, so she demands that money go to people that paid higher groceries. I don't understand the reasoning there or the logic either, but I think what happened was the Democrats all got their talking points and they all just ran with it. I have not heard anything more about lawsuits. I have not heard about if there has been, I'm sure if there's any decision we would know by now, but I don't know how far along that is. Now, again, let's go through some conspiracy theories and some Trump derangement syndrome seems to be the theme of the day. Donald Trump has suggested his war with Iran would soon come to an end just hours after completing a mysterious phone call with Vladimir Putin. Trump told reporters U.S. forces are very far ahead of schedule, claiming Iran's military has effectively been destroyed. Trump's remarks came after Putin shared a proposal to quickly end the war during the call, according to the Kremlin. The two leaders also discussed the current war in Ukraine as well as the oil market in Venezuela. The stock market clawed back, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Boy, they just can't drop the Putin conspiracies, can they? Trump told a Republican members conference in Doral this afternoon that he expected the conflict to be over soon. We took a little excursion. I mentioned this already. Trump told the New York Post he had a blunt message for Iran's new supreme leader, Kohaba Khamenei. I have no message for him, none whatsoever. Yeah, he was not happy with that pick. He said so, not happy with Khamenei as the Islamic regime's new dictator. He said on Monday he was, so I don't have to keep repeating it. When asked what he would do to the Islamic leader, Trump responded, not going to tell you. I'm not happy with him. All right. So Stephen Collinson from CNN says why Trump can't explain the start or the end game in the war with Iran. I think they've done a pretty effective job of that. Didn't we have was it on Monday where Carolyn Leavitt laid out the exact end game? President Donald Trump has spent a lifetime talking himself out of tough spots. But in the war with Iran, his trusty technique of sowing confusion to postpone reckonings is beginning to fail. 10 days in, Trump still hasn't settled on a consistent rationale for why he went to war. Now he's hinting that peace might soon be at hand, even while he and top aides simultaneously warn the fighting may get more intense and last longer. The messaging disconnect goes beyond Trump's flood the zone rhetoric and odd tendency to commentate on his own actions. That's a weird way of putting that. It reflects fast escalating political and military pressures bearing down on a president who gambled his legacy on a war that has spanned a global energy and geopolitical crisis. Tumbling stock markets and spiking oil prices have raised the possibility that a prolonged conflict could shatter the global economy. Days of Iranian retaliatory drone and missile strikes on Gulf states stoked fears of a wider war. The political clock is now ticking faster inside the United States, where Trump and his allies fret reverberations will worsen the cost of living misery that threatens the GOP's midterm election prospects. Wow, was this written? Well, I was going to say it is written by a Democrat, but Stephen Collinson from CNN. This passes for reporting. Now, you would love to go back in the time machine and see how he responded to the withdrawal of from Afghanistan under the Biden administration. But this is essentially, say, about 10, 11 pages of just attack after attack on Trump. And this is, and we've talked about this yesterday, that is the media's tactic. It always has been. Stock market tumbling, the oil skyrocketing, you are going to suffer. The world's economy, the world may come to an end because of this decision by a Republican. This is nothing new. But this just gives them an excuse. And they're saying that Trump has not come up with a kind of an end game, which I don't believe, or explained to us why he started this. A jarring question Trump must answer. Trump's rhetorical fog of war contrasts sharply with the methodical and relentless U.S. and Israeli air campaign that is inflicting catastrophic damage on the Islamic Republic's war machine. These are plans refined for decades. Trump's leadership, in contrast, evolves by the hour. There could, at a pinch, be rational explanations for the messaging mayhem. Perhaps Trump is seeking to confuse the enemy ahead of possible future escalation. CNN reported Monday, for instance, that the White House was mulling a complex and risky mission to retrieve Iran's highly enriched uranium. Or his hints at an approaching combat halt could be a shrewd play to mitigate political and economic heat. But as the conflict grinds through its second week, the key question is not necessarily about whether Trump wants to end the war, but whether he can. First, the U.S. must assess whether its operational gains have sufficiently degraded Iran's capacity to threaten its neighbors and U.S. allies in Europe and eventually the U.S. mainland. There are so far no independent battle damage reports, but Trump may have a case that the assault degraded Iran's missile, nuclear, and drone programs and the military infrastructure of its brutal regime. This alone pushes off an existential threat against Israel and may make the world safer. And a successful U.S. Special Forces raid to pull out Iran's enriched uranium would set back any attempt to reconstruct its nuclear programs for many years. Okay, enough of that. I spent too much time on that. But Trump's administration is starting to panic over rapidly rising oil costs. You could write these headlines yourself, again, from CNN, that yes, there is chaos, there's confusion inside the White House. While senior Trump aides had anticipated some brief surges in oil prices in the first days of the war with Iran, the size and sustainability of the market reaction caught them off guard. People familiar with the internal discussions told CNN. So if you work for Trump and you are quote-unquote loyal, right? Because we're told everybody that works for Trump had to pledge some loyalty to him. Is the anonymous source that is loyal to Trump going to go to CNN to talk about these matters? How do they have it each way? That I don't understand. Now, as oil prices hover near $100 a barrel, just over a week into the war, and U.S. gas prices are moving sharply higher, it's prompted a belated rush to try to reassure investors and seek ways to tamp down the impact. But the administration is confronting the limits of its power and the reality that President Trump's decision to wage war abroad threatens to wipe out some of his key economic accomplishments at home. Well, so now he does have economic accomplishments. Isn't that interesting? So when they can say that it's hurting Trump, he has economic accomplishments that he's now ruined. Isn't that how interesting how that works? They would never give him any type of pat on the back about economic accomplishments. Now apparently they will, because they can use it as a weapon, if you will. It's hard to see anything but contained upward pressure on prices, said Neil Atkinson, a longtime energy analyst and former head of the International Energy Agency's Oil Industry and Markets Division. People will get hurt at the pump. Again, and if you look at what the prices were under Biden, you notice they don't mention that. There wasn't articles at the time. Anyway, I think we've had enough of those pieces from CNN. Yeah, we have. All right, we got to take a break because you heard the Corning whistle. We've got a couple other things here. Now, yeah, we'll tell you more about some other issues. We got a lot more to cover, and I hope we have enough time to get there. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselsen's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselsen's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio. The New York Post is reporting that no one wanted Mojtaba Khomeini to be Iran's next supreme leader, not President Trump and not even his own father, who held the job until he was blown up in the airstrikes earlier this month. But as we know, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had other ideas. But what's interesting about this, listen, assassinated Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini was opposed to his son taking power, so much so that he noted it in his will, experts told the New York Post. In Khomeini's will, he explicitly asked Mojtaba not to be named as successor, said a research director for the opposition group National Union for Democracy with ties to the Iranian intelligence community. Mojtaba is a young cleric who has achieved nothing in terms of political life. All these years, he has been nothing without his father's name. And Mojtaba wasn't even properly selected by Iran's Succession Council, but the IRGC coerced the Assembly of Experts as it deliberated last week before finally forcing a vote. Mojtaba didn't even win a majority in that vote, citing sources in Iran, but the IRGC made sure it appointed him anyway, reportedly prompting many clerics to boycott the meeting where the selection was announced. Probably a good idea to boycott any meeting right now if you are of some leadership position in Iran. Maybe don't all meet at the local Holiday Inn banquet room. Not the best idea. Okay, anyway, I saw that in passing this morning. I thought that was kind of interesting. I wanted to pass it along to you. Oh my goodness, so many comments coming in. Good morning, Frank. Have a wonderful day. Well, good morning to you. I hope you have a wonderful day as well. Isn't that nice? All right, we got some comments. We'll read those to wrap up hour number one. But Fox News says the war hits home. Why financial pain and economic uncertainty threaten Trump's drive to topple Iran's regime. How high a price are Americans willing to pay for this war? I don't mean in terms of casualties, says Howard Kurtz, as the 7 Americans killed so far is a relatively low figure, although each fallen soldier is a tragedy. Each should be honored for their sacrifice, as the first half dozen were in a Delaware ceremony attended by President Donald Trump and other dignitaries. It's that the financial turmoil is really taking a toll on the homeland, not to mention around the world. Markets are tanking, oil prices are soaring, jobs are declining. And this has fueled doubts about Trump's decision to wage relentless attacks against Iran and offering a series of shifting explanations as to why the war is necessary and why it's needed to be launched now. So now going more into what Howard Kurtz had to say, he did wrap up with this. A month from now, 6 months from now, the decision to wage war against Iran may be seen as a brilliant tactical move or the start of an Iraq-style quagmire. Will Trump be able to say he shut down the mullah's nuclear program? But if there's one thing that might persuade the president to declare victory and wind things down, it's the growing economic pain that this war has inflicted on average Americans. Your thoughts? It's just interesting how the media, let's face it, it's Trump. So it doesn't surprise me. But that these constant attacks on him, and we're talking a week a week here, and you would have thought that the economy has crumbled and collapsed. But yet we mentioned the numbers from yesterday. Stocks rose by the end of the day, and oil prices, went down. So, but the media is on full-on alarmist chaos mode. We're going to talk a little bit more about Iran probably in the next hour, but then we are going to move on because we've got a lot of New York State issues. But I'm going to read your comments when we return. Don't forget to get your questions in for Chemung County Executive Chris Moss, who will be joining us on tomorrow's program. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Here, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to viewer comments to wrap up hour number one. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I think every conservative Republican needs to call Senator Schumer's office today and thank him for exposing the Democrats in America for illegally registering 20 million illegal non-citizen voters. Who is responsible? Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. It's funny how quickly the corrupt media claims confusion in the White House compared to how they ignored how confused Joe Biden was. That's a very good point. Yes, confusion, chaos. It's so cliche. Comment from a different viewer. Why Trump went to war? Let's see. A country that supports terrorists, where these cowardly terrorists indiscriminately mean to hurt and maim and otherwise disrupt the lives of anyone who is not Islam. A country run by demented fools wants to build nuclear bombs. What's keeping us from finally saying enough is enough? Thank you very much. And Ken writes in, I'm sure you scour the legacy media sites constantly to prepare for the most informative political talk show in America, Frankly Speaking. Well, thank you very much. So you may be able to answer this question. We know that all of the legacy media outlets get the daily talking points and dutifully repeat it all day to embed the thoughts into the sheeple's non-critical thinking minds. But who generates that daily talking point for the propaganda machine? Ken, that's the $1 million question. We used to have these conversations way back when I was doing radio, because there's people that have different theories. One believes that the talking points come from the Democrat Party themselves. Just like if you're a congressperson or if you're a senator, there are, in your caucus, they will send you out the daily kind of briefing, daily talking points of what to say. This is true. This is not conspiracy. I've seen them where it'll say, okay, and both parties do it. Just our talking point now is ICE is bad and whatever, and they'll have a whole list. It's about every topic just about under the sun. But the theory's always been, is the Democrats providing the talking points to the media, or is the media providing the talking points to the Democrats? That I don't have an answer for, but that's a fun mind game to play. Where do they originate from? Okay, and that's a great question, because you see too many of the same words, too many of the same phrases, too many of essentially the same articles or interviews every single day to not see a trend there, not see that there's somewhere people are getting their talking points. And you see it probably most glaringly on the Sunday programs, but it is throughout. It's why if you go to CNN right now, or don't change it though. I'm just saying, don't change the channel. Stay right here. But if you were to, CNN would be talking about the same thing MSNBC, MSN now is saying, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know who produces them. I will say Democrats do have essentially a machine that makes the talking points for the days and the weeks and about all the different topics in the news. So maybe it starts there and just gets to the media, or maybe the media originally wrote it. Great question. Something we've talked about extensively for a long time, and I still enjoy talking about it. We're going to talk more, speaking of that, about Iran. But you heard this yesterday, that Iran may be activating sleeper cells outside the country, according to alerts. The U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran that may serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country. The alert, reviewed by ABC News, cites preliminary signals and analysis of a transmission likely of Iranian origin that was released across multiple countries shortly after the death of Ayatollah al-Khamenei. The intercepted transmission was encoded and appeared to be destined for clandestine recipients who possess the encryption key, the kind of message intended to impart instructions to covert operatives or sleeper assets without the use of the internet or cellular networks. It's possible, they probably don't like to use cell phones. They probably try to avoid them, or beepers. It's possible the transmission could be intended to activate or provide instruction to pre-position sleeper assets operating outside the originating country. While the alert is careful to say there is no operational threat tied to a specific location, it does instruct law enforcement agencies to increase their monitoring of suspicious radio frequency activity. If the content of the alert proved true, it would confirm the fears expressed by law enforcement officials after the U.S. and Israel struck Iran that sleeper cells deployed around the West could be used for retaliation. All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 moments away. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking, and we'll be right back.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
You can just keep watching and scrolling, and the world will still feel like it's falling apart.
Widespread missile attacks. Hospitalization. Evacuation in the west.
Or you can take action by joining a movement that's creating real and lasting change instead. Partnering with communities around the globe to help uproot poverty and plant seeds of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Because at World Vision, we believe that no situation is hopeless. Join a movement that's changing the world for good.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We've been talking about Iran. We do have a couple things here worth mentioning about New York State, so you don't want to go anywhere. We've got a fun, jam-packed 1 hour. Comment from a viewer: the economy is a relative thing. For example, if you live in New York State, the economy is in shambles. It has nothing to do with the war. It's complete mismanagement. In most red states, the economy is flying. Again, nothing to do with the war. Thank you very much. Liz Peek, since we've been talking about Iran, said Democrats and their media enablers are doing everything possible to turn the American people against the war in Iran. Exactly what we've been speaking about this morning. They deny the rationale for attacking Tehran. They pretend that President Barack Obama's nuke deal was anything but appeasement of a bloodthirsty anti-U.S. regime. and they have alarmed Americans that we face a devastating energy crisis because of President Donald Trump's, quote, war of choice. And Liz Peek raises a great point about the misrepresentation suggesting, well, we had a deal with Iran. Barack Obama made that deal. We know what kind of disaster that was. That's why we're dealing with taking out their nukes or potential nukes. None of it is true, Liz Peek said. Over the weekend, Democrat Virginia Senator Mark Warner said on Fox News that Trump had failed to make the case that Iran posed an imminent threat to the U.S., implying that he saw no such threat. He also said Trump had picked the wrong time to carry out the mission. It's always the wrong time, isn't it? The Virginia senator made those remarks the very same week that a Pakistani assassin paid by the mullahs in Tehran was convicted of attempting to murder Trump. Iran's Revolutionary Guard, who hired the would-be killer, had apparently targeted not only Trump, but other U.S. officials, including former President Joe Biden and former UN Ambassador, Nikki Haley. For those potential victims, Iran posed an imminent threat. It isn't the first time the mullahs have sent spies to the U.S. to arrange the murder of Trump and others, like former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Thankfully, those attempts have been foiled. Were we supposed to simply wait until Tehran took down a leading U.S. politician before hitting back? These were not rogue agents. They were hired by Iranian officials, making the country a legitimate target. Warner expressed concerns about Iran's store of ballistic missiles, which he contended would be difficult to eradicate. Does the senator imagine those weapons would be easier to eliminate as the stockpiles grew? Would it be safer to wait until Tehran developed intercontinental missiles, which could strike the U.S.? As Iran has fomented terror and attacks against the U.S. and Israel over the past 47 years, taking Americans hostage, arranging the murder of hundreds of GIs, what would have been the perfect time to fight back? For Democrats, including Biden and Obama, that time would never come, and that's it. It's never a good time in their mind. They prefer appeasement, or worse, imagine that a bloodthirsty regime that is content to slaughter its own citizens and routinely chants death to America is only kidding. Obama and Biden seem to believe that given the proper incentives, Iran would forsake its terror mission and become a neutral partner. That's like imagining a rattlesnake could become cuddly, if only fed enough puppy chow. Obama, acting on his naivete in 2015, famously oversaw the creation of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, a multinational agreement that was supposed to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. Few saw the pact as a serious deterrent, given that the loose verification requirements and permission to continue enriching uranium for peaceful purposes. Yeah, peaceful purposes. For a major oil producer, they needed to enrich uranium. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to Congress at the time, urging members to reject the agreement, noting that as part of the deal, the U.S. and others would lift sanctions and funnel funds to Iran, which would go to building a nuclear stockpile and spreading terror. Trump left in the U.S. took the U.S. from the JCPOA in 2018. At the time, former Minnesota Republican Senator Norm Coleman correctly summed up the deal, writing, "It gave Iran a clear path to a nuclear weapon in 2025. No inspection of military sites and free reign for its nefarious deeds in the region, with over $100 billion to pay for it all." Some Democrats continue to assert, like former President Obama's national security aide, Ben Rhodes, that there was no need to confront Iran because the JCPOA prevented the mullahs from building a nuclear weapon. This is straight up baloney. Even the UN atomic watchdog, the IAEA, charged with ensuring Iran's compliance with the JCPOA, finally admitted last year that what they suspected, that Iran had cheated for years and not met the deal's requirements. Iran's Revolutionary Guard, who hired the would-be killer, had apparently targeted not only Trump, but don't go through all that. The body passed a resolution declaring that Iran was not complying with its obligations regarding nuclear proliferation. The IAEA said that they could not guarantee that Iran's program was exclusively peaceful and confessed that Tehran had hidden evidence of its enrichment program. In addition to arguing the merits of the war with Iran, Democrats are screaming that the conflict is bringing on an energy crisis. That is false. While tankers are piling up at the Strait of Hormuz, the world is enduring a temporary oil price surge. Iran's blockage of the strait has caused Iraq, Kuwait, and Qatar to shut down some of its production since they have no place to store the oil. Given the supremacy of U.S. and allied air power, it is unlikely this situation will endure. Once tankers start to pass through the strait, oil prices will quickly plummet. Democrats' opposition and criticism are falling flat. A new Rasmussen poll shows a majority of the country supports the attack on Iran. Democrats are hopeful that Trump's, quote, war of choice will hang like an albatross around GOP necks as we approach the midterm elections this fall. What will prove them wrong? Success and common sense. Warner and many of his colleagues denied the solemn annotations of former presidents, including Obama and Biden, that Iran would not be permitted to acquire a nuclear weapon. Americans understand there was realistically only one way to stop them, and Trump had the guts to take that path. Democrats are afraid that the U.S. will win this war. Think about that. Democrats are afraid that the U.S. will win this war, says Liz Peek, that Iran will be forced to repudiate its reign of terror, and that President Trump's legacy will include a remarkable transformation of the world's most troublesome region, which began with the Abraham Accords during his first term. Imagine a prosperous, growing Middle East. Imagine Gaza being rebuilt without the oppression of its people by Iran-backed Hamas. Americans should cheer for success for the Iranian people, for the world, and for the U.S. I thought that was such a great piece by Liz Peek. Now, Michael Oren says Iran has waged war on America for 47 years, and it's time to end it. And that's the point that so many have made. Because it's not as if Iran was just there minding their own business. Never mind what we were talking about with the assassination plots, but we've seen it with their funding of Hamas and Hezbollah. The Iranian regime started this war by vowing openly and ardently each day since coming to power to destroy the U.S. and develop weapons that could do it. Though Israel most certainly has an interest in defending itself from Iranian attacks, that interest is consistent with, not superior to, America's, which is independent and critical. In what logical universe, a clearly thinking person might well ask, does the United States not have a clear-cut case against Iran? Now, I had mentioned this in the last hour. Well, we got fire trucks or police coming. Sorry if it gets loud. The Iran war has elevated Marco Rubio into Trump's 2028 secession jockeying. Now, this is coming from, I think, NBC. I just like your thoughts on it, because you heard me, if you're just joining us, maybe you didn't. In the 6 o'clock hour, I find it interesting how many people in the media that don't want to see a Republican ever win are praising Rubio, are building him up. Now, to the one viewer's comment, it is a good point that they do this so as to essentially attack J.D. Vance, and they hope sow some seeds of chaos in the White House. But according to 2028 election, yes, it is NBC. It goes through. In the early hours of February 28th, President Donald Trump and his administration joined Israel in launching a wave of strikes on Iran that would reverberate across the Middle East. That night, he was schmoozing at Mar-a-Lago with some of his top administration officials. I apologize. Clearly a fire truck in the background. With a pressing question, Marco or JD? With a group of roughly 25 GOP donors, including New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft and billionaire Georgia gubernatorial candidate Rick Jackson, Trump asked the room who they would prefer he support for president in 2028. Attendees overwhelmingly indicated Secretary of State Marco Rubio through their cheering, according to two people who were at the event. And I know that Trump was praising Rubio the other day, but it was almost unanimous for Marco, said one person in attendance. It was clear, at least that night, another person in the room characterized the response as more evenly split between Rubio and Vance. So you've got some dogged reporting here. We've heard nearly unanimous to evenly split. Those are some good sources they have. The small gathering in Florida, Rubio's home state, it should be noted, doesn't necessarily mean that Rubio is the new favorite over J.D. Vance. The Mar-a-Lago donor crew are not JD people, a former Trump administration official said. He did not get picked to be vice president because of the Mar-a-Lago crowd. If you remember, that crowd was lobbying the president to pick Marco. So I'd say stuff like that is a bit gamed. If there were a poll taken tomorrow, I'd bet JD is still up by 40 points or whatever it is. But they're pressing this. They're pushing it. Now, an NBC News poll released last week found that 77% of Republican voters have a positive view of Vance compared to 66% for Rubio. In August, Trump told Fox News that Vance was most likely the heir to the MAGA movement and probably favored at this point. But in all fairness, he's the vice president, and I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with JD in some form. And I know Trump just praised him recently. I'm not going to go through all that. But he did say, I'm telling you, he's going to go down as the best Secretary of State in the country's history, Marco Rubio. I don't want him to get too popular. You know, when they get too popular, all of a sudden you see, where's Marco? He's not around anymore. That's true. So your thoughts on that? I know we've talked about it probably extensively enough, but there seems to be a lot of pieces. So right now, I mean, there's no wrong answer, but if you were to go right now to the voting booth and had to vote for JD or Marco, who would you pick? What do you think it'll be in 2028? Who do you think Trump will ultimately support? Now, we got to remember, Marco said that if JD wants to run, it's his. He's not going to run against him. It's easy to say that 4 years out, though, as well, if he grows in popularity. But I know the media clearly wants Rubio to grow in popularity, maybe to that one viewer's point, just to sow that kind of chaos and confusion and anger and start a little bit of a war between the two. Now, we are going to move on to, I think, I got to take a short break. We may have one other thing on this, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
You don't have to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
An Albany buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
They are meteorologist Brandon. And weathers, it'll be a warm one out there, 71, nearly 30 degrees above average, and we cannot take this spring-like warmth for granted because it's not guaranteed for the rest of the forecast. Tonight, still mild, however, with lows in the 50s instead of the average low 20s. A few showers tonight with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible on Wednesday, a high of 70. But look at this strong cold front, so that
beautiful view of historic Market Street here in the Gaffer District. Brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, as mentioned earlier. Let's go to some viewer comments. Nothing against Marco, but JD gets my vote. Oh, there you go. I think it's interesting to have a conversation because I like to see where people are headed. But then that viewer does say they'll vote for anybody but a Democrat, so I get it. But it is interesting to see where people's loyalties lie because Marco has gained in popularity, whether it's media pushing it or just in general. And been doing a great job. Absolutely. Aaron Mike here. I like that. Mike from Aaron writes in, for years, Democrats chased our industry away to overseas with overtaxation. Now we're dependent on other countries for our goods to take their products out of our stores. Then they take their products out of their stores and the shelves would be empty. Those countries could shut us down. Yeah, if you look at the supply chain and you start talking about medicines and like that, and back to this viewer's point, Trump is trying to change this, bringing it back for all of us. Democrats, independents, and Republicans. For all of us. You're exactly right. He's been trying to work. Because that supply chain, we saw it during COVID. We saw it a little bit after. And many people, myself at the time as well, were concerned that it was a test by China to see how well it would work if their supply chains had issues, if all of a sudden we couldn't get our medicine and some of our necessities. And it was a concern, and still is, if that was just a quick test. But Mike Wright continues. He says, where am I? P.S. Hochul must love what's going on with Iran now. When she raises gas at the pump 60%, Democrats will blame it on Trump. Good point. She was ready for that one, wasn't she? Hard to believe you have been on for 3 years. I remember you on the radio. Love your show. Thanks. Mike from Erin, New York, named by Ireland. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate hearing from Erin. I do like that. Thank you. And yes, it is hard to believe it's been 3 years. It'll be 3 years Friday that we've been on the air here on television. I think it was 14 years on radio, somewhere around there. Right around there, 14, 15 years. Just something quickly, just if you're interested, it's at the New York Post. But a battle is brewing inside the U.S. intelligence community over explosive evidence that Russia may be behind the mysterious Havana syndrome illness that has sickened hundreds of U.S. officials. As Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, pushes to make the findings public after the Biden administration allegedly buried them. Multiple sources familiar with the case told the New York Post that U.S. intelligence agencies internally concluded Moscow was responsible for the attacks dating back to 2016, but all declined to disclose the determination publicly. U.S. officials also believed to have obtained at least one of the devices used in the incidents. Former intelligence officials say a potential smoking gun, reported by CBS News' 60 Minutes on Sunday. Victims of Havana syndrome, so named because it was first reported by U.S. diplomats in Cuba, have reported the sudden onset of symptoms including vertigo, hearing loss, migraines, blindness, and cognitive impairment. A classified report produced by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence criticizes the Biden administration's intelligence community for conducting a cover-up, according to a source who has seen the report. However, its public release has so far been delayed. Just interesting. You can find that full piece at the New York Post. All right, we have some New York State updates. And I apologize. I wanted to show you a picture, and it didn't work. For whatever reason, my system wasn't buying it. But we heard from our good friend, Mayor John Buckley from the city of Hornell, and he said yesterday that he was proud to announce a grand marshal for the upcoming Hornell St. Patrick's Day Parade. Now, we all know this is a very big deal in Hornell. That St. Patrick's Day Parade is the envy of all communities around it. It's probably the biggest and best in our area. Well, each year, the city of Hornell selects someone who makes a meaningful difference in our community to serve as Grand Marshal. This year's honoree is someone who has quietly and consistently helped shape the lives of hundreds of young people while also bringing pride and recognition to our city. I'm pleased to announce, said the mayor, that Chris Van Leeuwen, hope I'm pronouncing that right, director of vocal music for the Hornell City School District, will serve as this year's Grand Marshal. For many years, Chris has been the driving force behind the incredible growth and success of Hornell's vocal music program. Under his leadership, the choir program for grades 7 through 12, including jazz choir, show choir, tremble choir, and other ensembles, has reached record levels of participation and excellence. Hornell's choirs consistently perform at an exceptional level and have brought home numerous competition honors. We're not going to go through all this, but congratulations to Chris Van Leeuwen, Director of Vocal Music of the Hornell City School District, named the St. Patrick's Day Parade Grand Marshal. Also, we received this from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano yesterday before we take a break. He announced that the Donate Life Art Contest deadline has been extended until March 13th. So if you've been working on this and you ran late, you have a few more days. Submissions must be in by March 13th, and winners will be notified by March 20th. Entries must be submitted by a teacher or parent and must include the participating student's name, grade level, age, address, phone number, and email. There are 4 separate categories for the contest: elementary, which is 4th through 5th grades, middle school 6th through 8th grades, and high school 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. All right, thank you. If you want more information on that, let me know, and I can pass that along to you. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Elmira Express Junior players. They're cast members for the upcoming The Addams Family musical, which is March 13th, 14th, and 15th. We are going to hear from them. Then we are going to talk about more New York State issues. The Daily News had a piece out yesterday, a Supreme Court win for a fair map. The Staten Island Congressional District stays in place. We're going to tell you what they had to say. Got a couple little things here about Bruce Blakeman, but we got to take that short break. Coming up next, the Elmira Express Junior players. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In the heart of nature, collisions happen when you least expect them. Deer hits can turn a tranquil drive into a chaotic moment. When the unexpected happens, turn to Scott's Collision. At Scott's Collision, we understand the frustration of unexpected encounters with wildlife. From dents to more extensive damage, we've got you covered. When nature and your vehicle collide, trust Scott's Collision to bring it back to life.
It's great to catch up, Jamie. How's business?
Good. Are you up to speed with the new beneficial ownership reporting requirements?
Sort of. What's it about?
It's a new initiative to help fight crimes like money laundering, fraud, and drug trafficking. A lot of small businesses like ours just have to report some basic info to the federal government about the real people behind them.
Does that include my cafe?
There are some exemptions for certain companies, but don't worry. There's lots of guidance on the government's website about who needs to file. Check out fincen.gov/BOI. Filing is easy and free. It took me less than 20 minutes.
Looks like I do have to file. Thanks, Jamie. It's great having a supportive business community.
Reporting beneficial ownership information helps protect U.S. national security. Filing is quick, secure, and free. And it's the law. Learn more at fincen.gov/BOI.
They are meteorologist Brandon and weathers. It'll be a warm one out there, 71, nearly 30 degrees above average, and we cannot take this spring-like warmth for granted because it's not guaranteed for the rest of the forecast. Tonight, still mild, however, with lows in the 50s instead of the average low 20s. A few showers tonight with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible on Wednesday, a high of 70. But look at this strong cold front so that our high
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio, it's the Adams family. Good morning. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Good morning.
All right, tell us all about it. Are you ready? Because it's coming out March 13th, 14th, and 15th, as people can see on the bottom of the screen. All right, you guys think you're ready?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay, then. Pretty
I guess
confident.
that's a good answer from
right.
them, considering.
All right, just had to get that out of the way. So let's introduce each of you, if you don't mind.
I'm James Wellington, and I'm playing Gomez Adams.
Oh.
I'm Eva Scott, and I'm playing Morticia Adams.
And I am Katie Hastrich, and I'm the director.
All right. So we mentioned Are You Ready? How long has this been in the works? Because I know this takes a lot longer than sometimes people expect.
We held auditions in December before we braked for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then we started rehearsals right when we got back from break.
Okay.
And they intensified throughout the weeks coming up to it.
Yeah.
So right now we're in the grind.
Right. So yeah, because what's it look like now that you're nearing your performance? What's a typical practice look like? I'll ask either of you.
So practices right now are going from, I believe, 4 to 7.
Oh wow.
And honestly, I feel like they have higher expectations than I'm used to, but it's very doable. They make it fun.
Okay. Same. Yeah. How about you? You're the one controlling the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's intense.
Yeah.
Of course, when you're running a show, our cast is very big. We did not cut anyone that auditioned.
Oh, that's good.
I think that's important at the middle school level because they need to get that, rolling for their careers of what they want to do, especially in high school. They're not as generous. So we want to give everyone an opportunity. So I did cast everyone that auditioned. We have a cast of 64.
Wow.
So that's including all of the Adams, all of the Beniki family, which is who Wednesday falls in love with, Lucas. And then we have a plethora of ancestors ranging from all genres. Yeah. We have Babe Ruth, we have Marie Curie, we have bakers, we have chefs, we have opera singers. So it goes a whole bunch of genres. So it's a nice thing. And rehearsals do get intense. It's a 90-minute show, give or take, without an intermission.
Okay.
So it is different for Jamie from coming from, Finn Academy where he did a little things, but he's doing great. He stepped up. He's in 7th grade. And Eva is new to drama, but she's doing great as well. So I couldn't have had one more wonderful two leading actors. For
Well,
this.
and you mentioned that you're new to acting. But you've done other things like this, the performing arts, correct?
Yes, yeah.
So why did you decide to take the step into becoming an actor and get involved in the Addams Family?
Well, I've always had a love for like musicals and like singing, dancing, performing, and I thought it was a good opportunity to start acting too and trying to get into it myself.
Oh, absolutely. And how about you? Why did you decide to get involved?
I mean, really, I just did it for fun back in 6th grade, and I just fell in love with it and decided to continue it.
Yeah. Is it difficult? Because, I mean, there's one thing about acting, but this is a full-on musical. How difficult is that to get your voices ready, to get things like that, as compared to memorizing your lines and memorizing a song? Is that very difficult? No? Everybody makes it sound so easy. Practice is over. You guys don't even have to do it anymore. Wow. Yeah, I would think so, because we should have started by this. Everybody knows the Addams Family, but tell us about the Addams Family musical. Tell us a little bit maybe about the story.
Well, we have Wednesday, her family,
Sure.
and Wednesday ends up falling in love with a more normal boy.
Oh, okay.
And him and Benikis, and she asked her dad for approval, but
doesn't ask the mom.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So we have some drama. There's drama in the drama, of course. But yeah, it goes through the whole, story of Wednesday fell in love with this boy who's not, a morbid, dark character.
Sure.
His mom is into poetry and very outgoing, and his dad is more like a very straightforward kind of dude. Lucas has fallen head over heels for her. They met in Central Park, when she shot a pigeon out of the sky in Central Park. So it's very humorous show, but it does have its sentimental moments, especially between them, with the conflict of he chose Wednesday over his wife, and then, things like that. So it's got the humor, it's got the real life scenarios, and it's got a little of, fantasy stuff built in there too, because we have Fester who falls in love with the moon.
Oh, okay.
So
that tracks. That adds up. Yeah.
So.
Well, and because you say Fester, and I think of Cousin, I haven't watched the Addams Family in forever, but they're so iconic, these characters. So how do you each get ready for your role?
I mean, really, I really didn't do much, but...
Okay.
He's a natural.
Okay, that's it. All right.
But really, I've seen a lot of the videos that Miss Hastrich has posted on our little, group app. Mm-hmm. And I've studied him. I've tried to, seen, the way that he acts compared to the way I act, and try and just, copy him, basically.
Sure.
Yeah, I've also watched multiple videos and, clips from different schools, performing the Addams Family musical also, and trying to get, inspiration and, an idea of how Morticia acts. Mm-hmm. My mom's even kind of noticed me start to make little... Morticia.
Oh, really?
Well, it's funny because she came into the audition and she had the perfect Morticia mannerisms, and I was like, "Is this acting? Is this just?" Because I didn't know her from last year, so I was like, "Oh, wow!" And it was pretty easy. And they do pick up characters very well, so that gives us time to focus on that blocking and the dancing, and all of that. Sure. So and the singing. So in that sense, we're very lucky because the acting kind of comes natural for them. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much character focus as it is, make sure you're here at the certain time, make sure you're doing this dance step. So in that sense with them, they had to work on the chemistry because it's a middle school production, and it's a little bit, but they're fine. Yeah. They're doing a great job.
Did you watch any of the old black and white episodes, or was it all the newer ones?
I've watched a few.
Yeah. I was just curious because there's a lot of new adaptions of the Addams Family, right? So that's the one maybe we think of the most as the black and white one, but they're probably each character is quite a bit different from the newer ones to the old ones. I don't know.
The classics are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the whatever, and then we do have some additions,
Yeah.
but I mean they're pretty solid to what the normal thing. It is definitely not the Netflix Wednesday stuff that's coming out.
Making that clear.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely, if you search the Broadway show with Nathan Lane and all of those great characters that pulled that off in New York City, I mean that's exactly probably what you're going to see here, just a miniature version of it.
Okay.
Right down to our set and everything. So.
Wow. What? Speaking of set, before I ask my final couple questions here, I think it's always important to thank the crew, right? The people behind the scenes, because you mentioned how many people want to be in front of the curtain, but there's so many people to make this possible behind the curtain, isn't it?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And so we always want to thank them.
We could not have the show without them because we have a full house as our back wall. We have a New York City set that is being designed. We have mini rooms within the house. We have what else do we have? We have a torture wall for Pugsley and for Wednesday, where he is actually going to be strapped to the wall, and she will pull a lever. So yeah, I mean, without Mr. O, who's our designer, and Miss Etter, who also works at Ernie Davis with me, doing the painting, and our producer Miss Rollins, and everybody, it takes a whole group,
an army.
And between everything that needs to get done, and we just work as a team, and that's the nice thing about theater. I think that's nice. What we start so young with them is to know that there are no small parts, and there are nobody's. Yes, they're the leads in the show, but without the heart and soul of the ancestors, they couldn't tell the story that they do. So we strive with that with the program, and everyone gets along great.
Great. All right, before we go, tough questions. This is when I say the tough questions. What do you like the most about the musical?
I will say what I like most about the musical is always getting to find new parts of yourself that you're not used to.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, it's been really fun working doing this musical, but I've also made a lot of new friends.
That's great.
Too. And we've all gotten along. It's just been really fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's got to be fun.
It's family first, and family last, and
Yeah.
family by and by, which is a quote from the play.
Do you have a favorite part of the musical? About being a part of it?
No, we aimed big with this.
Yeah.
They have typically done Disney shows for the last couple, I guess 10 years. When I came in and took it over last year, they'd already picked the show, so we had Lion King, which was a huge one because I had a whole bunch of masks and things like that to do. And I wanted to break away from that, and I was a little nervous because it's different.
Yeah.
It's totally different, and it's songs with music underneath, and there's rocking with music underneath. It's not the typical, Simba and Nala and then a tree. There's a lot to the show, but no, I think I'm more excited to see them have their moment now because of all the hard work that they have done. It's it's humbling because I want to keep molding them, but I have to let them go now and do their thing, and they're going to do amazing.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
Okay, do you have a favorite song?
Ooh. I'd have to say the song Crazier Than You is personally my favorite.
Okay. It sounds good.
Yeah, that is a good one.
I really like Crazier Than You also. But I know it's just around the corner. It's also very humorous.
Okay.
Yes.
I know.
That is her song, one of her songs, and she does amazing with that. So I can definitely see how that is amazing. To give Jamie his credit, he does have a very beautiful solo called "What If" that he sings about Morticia, and he does amazing with that. He has a lot of things throughout, and so does she with group, different solos. But they all have their moment to shine, and it's definitely humbling to see that. So,
well, we're talking about the Addams Family Musical March 13th at 7 p.m., 14th at 7 p.m., and March 15th at 2 p.m. What's the best ways if the viewers want to attend? How can they attend?
So it is at Broadway Academy, so Broadway Academy is down in Elmira. So they can just come to the door by the flagpole entrance, and there will be doors that will be wide open there. There's a beautiful display cases that our parents have done with all the headshots of the cast members in them. So you can have those when you come in. There'll be ticket sales right there. Tickets are $10 for adults, and for students it is $7 for students and seniors.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the program this morning, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
All right. We'll be right back for Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
At the Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, we provide students with a variety of community-based and academic opportunities and a fresh start. Located on the Corning Community College campus, students earn high school credits and gain real-world experiences through community service, internships, art partnerships, and work opportunities, experiences they value for a lifetime. Our students find a place to reconnect and succeed. The Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, turning fresh starts into future success.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Because even one attack is one too many.
The tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
There, meteorologist Brandon. And weathers, it'll be a warm one out there, 71, nearly 30 degrees above average, and we cannot take this spring-like warmth for granted because it's not guaranteed for the rest of the forecast. Tonight, still mild, however, with lows in the 50s instead of the average low 20s. A few showers tonight with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible on Wednesday, a high of 70. But look at this strong cold front, so that
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We want to thank our friends from the Elmira Express Junior Players. Sounds like it's going to be fun. I'm glad that they watched a little bit of the old black and white Addams Families to get prepared for the upcoming Addams Family Musical, March 13th, 14th, and 15th. Where did I say it was? The Broadway Academy in their theater. Okay. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark writes in, when are they going to take down the Christmas lights on Market Street? They're wasting taxpayer money by leaving them up, but Corning is a rich town. I guess they don't care. No, it was privately funded this year, Mark. There was controversy in years past because not every single tree was lit up, and people really liked it during the holidays. But I think, so it is privately funded by businesses, we talked about it with the new executive director. If you want to go on, you can donate. A lot of individuals have. But I think I read in one of the campaigns that they're actually going to try to keep it up year round because there is, obviously there's a cost of electricity, don't get me wrong. Obviously, clearly, we talk about that a lot. But there's also the cost of taking them down. That's a whole thing. But yeah, I've kind of been surprised that they're up, and I don't know if they're going to go the full year or not. But it's starting to seem it at this point, isn't it? But rest assured, it is paid for by individuals and businesses, not by taxpayers. Okay, coming from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Is Kathy Hochul really saving New Yorkers money on auto insurance with her cheap, petty TV commercials? Why can't she save us money on our utilities? I believe her corruption will be exposed before Election Day. And I'm glad you mentioned that because Bruce Blakeman spoke at, I believe it was a Republican function or in his annual address as a Nassau County executive. That's what it was. So I'll tell you what he had to say here in just a moment. Comment from a different viewer. Congratulations on your 3rd anniversary. Well, thank you very much. Have watched your show from the beginning. Very informative, interesting, and necessary. Here's to many more years. Thank you very much. Isn't that kind of you? Yes, Friday we will be celebrating 3 years on the air. That's hard to believe. All right, on New York State issues, I want to mention this from the Daily News. The Daily News skews more to the left, but they said last week the U.S. Supreme Court, thankfully, put a stop to the nonsense pushed by partisan Democrats to immediately redraw the sole New York City congressional district held by a Republican, Nicole Maltakis, covering Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn. Justice Sam Alito explained why the nation's highest court stepped in, despite objections from 3 of his colleagues, that they need to wait for all state court action to be first exhausted. And that should come as no surprise. As we've said before, if you are on the left and you're on the bench and you're on the Supreme Court, you are always going to side with the Democrats. There's no wavering. In this case, Republicans very often waver. But the outcome would have been the same either way, and the tight timetable, with petitioning for candidates having started on February 24th, is due entirely to the lateness that Democrats choose to initiate their legal challenge. We get it that Democrats want to win the most seats, and the Republicans also want to win the most seats. But we want the public to decide who wins, not the person drawing the maps. And New York is fortunate that our current map, drawn by nonpartisan political scientist Jonathan Service of Carnegie Mellon University, is, as we've said before, cribbing from the Snow White's evil queen, the fairest in the land. Following the state constitution as amended in 2014, the 26 congressional districts give no advantage to party nor to incumbents. So they swing back and forth as the voters decide. With Republicans in control of the White House, the Senate, and the House, it should be a good Democratic year. There is no need for Democrats to cheat and deprive voters of their own choice. But when President Trump wrongly pushed Texan Republicans to do a mid-decade redistricting with the explicit goal of maximizing GOP seats in the 2026 midterms, other states followed, such as Democrats in California. Since New York's constitution forbids both partisan gerrymandering, and mid-decade redistricting, the only option for Democrats to game the midterm map was to have a judge intervene. And here we go. This is why I mentioned the piece to you. Acting Manhattan State Supreme Court Justice Jeffrey Perlman foolishly went along with a Democratic lawsuit and ordered a new map for Staten Island on the weak argument that Service's map discriminates against Black and Latino voters, which it does not. As the Republicans appealed Perlman's ruling at the mid-level and top state court, the Court of Appeals, they also asked the U.S. Supreme Court to get involved. Justice Sonia Sotomayor and the 2 other liberals, Alina Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, said it was too early in the process for them to weigh in before the New York Court of Appeals had finished with the matter. They are correct on the normal procedure, but the election clock is also ticking, and Alito made clear that Perlman's use of a racial gerrymander doesn't stand. The lateness of the case is the Democrats' own fault. The lines were finalized by the Democratic legislature and Governor Hochul in February of 2024, and the case wasn't filed until October of 2025. In theory, Perlman's order still stands and could be in place for the 2028 election, but the Democrats were trying to rig the map for this year, as other states are doing, so they might give up. What they should definitely give up is trying to amend the New York State Constitution to allow a mid-decade redistricting for the 2028 election. That's from the Daily News. Okay, we mentioned Blakeman. We'll talk about that when we come back. We also have one for our good buddy, Climate Fact Friday, Bob, and it's about the climate laws here in New York. We got quite a bit of other New York issues, perhaps. We don't have a lot of time left, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
there, meteorologist Brandon. And weathers, it'll be a warm one out there, 71, nearly 30 degrees above average, and we cannot take this spring-like warmth for granted because it's not guaranteed for the rest of the forecast. Tonight, still mild, however, with lows in the 50s instead of the average low 20s. A few showers tonight with scattered showers and thunderstorms possible on Wednesday, a high of 70. But look at this strong cold front so that our high
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So Nassau County Executive and gubernatorial hopeful Bruce Blakeman took a shot at Governor Hochul during the State of the County address on Monday while touting his anti-crime and pro-ICE policies. Blakeman, a Trump ally set to face off against Hochul in November, boasted that Nassau is not a sanctuary county where local law enforcement limits its cooperation with federal immigration authorities. While crowing about joint area operations with federal agents that he said helped remove thousands of criminal migrants from the street. I have made it a priority to ensure that taxpayer dollars are not being used to support migrant programs in Nassau. And I've repeatedly called on Governor Hochul to cancel over $6 billion in state taxpayer funds that have been wasted on people who haven't earned a thing. He also highlighted the local drop in crime and thousands of new police hires in his county. And as I mentioned, I saw Mr. Blakeman, Executive Blakeman, when was it? Last Friday? Was it Thursday? When he was in the area in Elmira. And let me just say, you would love his speech. It hits on all the right points. But he said, we are all very proud. Where is it? Oops. No. Got cut off. Never mind. But he did take some digs at Hochul. Now, speaking of Hochul, Ken Giardin said Governor Hochul has spent much of her 4.5 years in office facing a time bomb left by her predecessor. Drastic, legally binding greenhouse gas reduction targets that the state has no practical means of meeting. The 2019 Climate Act requires New York to cut greenhouse gas emissions by about 1/4 from the year's level by 2030. The state has made little progress towards this goal, in part because officials shuttered New York's largest nuclear power plant in 2021. The law remains on the books, and its defenders balk at revision. If Hochul can't persuade them to change it, Albany's green dreams will cause harsh conditions in the Empire State. Steep electric bills that we're already receiving. Remember what Joe Semplinsky said. We're just at the beginning of those. Those bills that you're receiving, you ain't seen nothing yet, but we'll continue. Albany's green dreams will cause harsh conditions, as I said, steep electric bills, green energy boondoggles, and rolling blackouts. The law has saddled the state with 3 related but distinct problems: threats to the grid's reliability, rising electric bills, and a looming surge in fuel prices. The most ominous and least visible is the growing risk that New York City might have difficulty keeping the lights on as soon as June. Last summer's heat wave, when temperatures reached 100 degrees in some neighborhoods, put the electric grid under extreme stress. In spite of this sort of demand, state air quality regulations have already forced operators to close a few dozen small peaker power plants that previously ran for a few hours each summer when demand was highest. Some of the lost peaker capacity should have been replaced years ago, but state environmental officials, citing the Climate Act, blocked a major power plant upgrade in Queens and another one in Orange County. That move, about which state officials jetted off to Scotland to boast, put the kibosh on other upgrades. The remaining stock keeps getting older. The 2 yet-to-be-replaced power plants in Astoria that went offline amid the heat last June were built in 1954 and 1958. In December, the state's utility regulator, the Public Service Commission, ordered the city's electric utility, Con Edison, to address the shrinking margin between peak electricity demand and supply. Because of the Climate Act, the PSC told the company to look only at non-emitting solutions, i.e. those that didn't create additional greenhouse gases. It remains unclear how Con Edison will handle the next sweltering weekday afternoon. As of November, bills were up an average 7% over last year and up a whopping 47% since 2019 on average. Wow. Electricity prices across upstate New York could rise by at least an additional 40% in the next 5 years. Why? The Climate Act. Customers are paying more so that the state can subsidize wind and solar facilities, as well as new transmission projects to get the energy to market. Something that can't always happen thanks to the ready, shoot, aim mentality behind state climate policy. Some of the biggest new statewide costs for offshore wind and a new power line under the Hudson River haven't even hit customers' bills yet. And electric utilities are stealthily funding various electrification projects at the state's behest, with costs spread out to all customers. The state has also been fending off a lawsuit by environmental groups upset that officials haven't issued the Climate Act's long-promised and legally required regulations to increase fuel costs for homes, businesses, and vehicles. And costs only go up from there. The State Department of Environmental Conservation was supposed to implement these regulations 2 years ago, but Hochul has resisted, in part because such a system would increase gasoline prices by $1.62 per gallon and cause similar price hikes on home heating oil, diesel, and natural gas. Unfortunately for Hochul, the environmental activists won at the trial level and have a good shot of prevailing on appeal in the lawsuit. That means she needs to modify the Climate Act substantially in ongoing budget talks to prevent what would amount to the biggest middle-class tax hike in state history. While the price increase hasn't yet materialized, Hochul's credibility on affordability wanes, with each customer zapped by a new electric bill. She needs to worry, too, about the aging system that the Climate Act won't let her replace. High electric bills hurt political careers, but rolling blackouts end them. There you go. We got to wrap up. Get your last second comments in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Allegiant's flight from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Another teenager, victim to fake pills. That smells like big crime that needs to be stopped. Before buying pills online, think about this. Should buying prescription pills be this easy?
Yeah, bro, I'm picking up. Same guy. I bet. Got you 5.
Think these pills are tested and safe? Think they're the same ones you get from a doctor? You know they're not. Did you know that fake prescription pills may contain fentanyl? And an amount small enough to fit on the tip of a pencil can be lethal. Listen. Before buying pills from social media, think again. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org and go.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from Mark. He says, I apologize about the Christmas lights on Market Street. I didn't know they were paid for by businesses. Have a great day. You have a great day too, Mark. No, I'm glad that you brought it up. It gave me an opportunity to tout that new program where businesses and individuals pay for the lights on Market Street. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. The Post editorial board said Hochul's idea of affordability is bloating pensions and driving property taxes sky high. Now, we learned that in Albany, and we were fearful of this, in Albany, socialists are looking to ride the coattails of Mamdani's win. The political swagger of 10 Democrat socialists who are members of the state legislature received a boost in November when Mamdani broke through historic barriers as he became the first socialist as well as the first Muslim and South Asian to be elected mayor of New York City. Anyway, we know that they were going to go in that direction. Now, Mamdani did host the anti-Israel activist, you remember this name, Mohammed Khalil, and his family at a Gracie Mansion Ramadan celebration. The mayor included a photo of the celebration showing his wife holding a plate of food while standing next to a seated Khalil who was enjoying his meal. Khalil, a Syrian-born activist and former Columbia University grad student, was arrested by ICE early last year and faces deportation after the Trump administration accused him of committing fraud on his green card application. Hochul, we heard about the attempted ISIS-inspired bombing at Gracie Mansion over the weekend. Hochul blamed both sides, the anti-Muslim protests and the ISIS-inspired bomb throwers. We condemn both. Neither belongs in New York. I reject hate in all of its forms. I reject the hate that launched this, she said of the bomb throwers. I reject the hate that perpetrated this, that drew people to travel to our city. And with these weapons of destruction, it's all abhorrent. It doesn't belong in our state. None of it does. Comment from Ken before we wrap up. There is only one reason that our politicians would work so hard to force people into going all electric and pushing the use of solar and wind, especially when the infrastructure isn't ready for it. They're going to be monetarily enriched by it. Thank you, Ken. We appreciate that. A lot of people heavily invested in that. All right. Yes, the New York City bomb attack suspects launched a slew of chilling ISIS-inspired slogans and threats after they got arrested. We're not going to read you what those threats and those slogans were. But we know that one flashed a ISIS sign after being arrested. Well, I think that does it. Is that it? Yeah, wow. Oh, my goodness. We're almost out of time here. We want to thank our friends at Elmira Express Junior Players for coming in and tell us all about the Addams Family musical that they'll be performing in coming up on March 13th, 14th, and 15th at the Broadway Academy Theater. So thank you to Elmira Express Jr. Tomorrow on the program, we will have Chemung County Executive Chris Moss. So make sure you get your questions in for the executive. Love to hear from you. Get them in early, and I would appreciate it. All right, that does it for today's edition. Whew. Felt like a busy one. It was a quick one. It was a fun one. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the waves. And we will be back tomorrow morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you bright and early. Look forward to it already.
Accidents happen. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. Commit to Nappy's, family owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business.